And that, ladies, gentlemen, and assorted gender-neutral beings, is why human biology is the cosmic equivalent of a tipsy frat boy stumbling through a china shop while juggling chainsaws and solving differential equations, Dr. Aaron concluded, her tone a blend of pride and exasperation. The auditorium at the 10,147th Annual Galactic Medical Conference exploded into a symphony of gasps, clicks, and what could only be described as the sound of thousands of alien jaws hitting the floor, assuming, of course, that aliens had jaws. Dr. Chen, the first human xenobiologist invited to this prestigious event, stood at the podium, her lab coat immaculate, her hair in a messy bun that screamed, "I've been up for 72 hours straight on nothing but coffee and a desire to make alien scientists question their life choices." She surveyed the audience, a smirk playing on her lips as she watched the myriad of alien species try to process the information overload she had just unleashed. A tentacled Zorlak in the front row raised what appeared to be an appendage. "Excuse me, Doctor." Chenik gurgled, its voice translator struggling to keep up with its evident distress. "But are you honestly telling us that humans can regrow entire limbs?" Doctor. Chen chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down the spines or equivalent structures of several attendees. "Ah, my dear Zorlak friend, I wish. No, we can't regrow entire limbs. We're not that advanced yet. But give us a few centuries and who knows? What I am saying is that we can regenerate liver tissue, regrow fingertips, and heal from injuries that would turn most species into cosmic roadkill." Another alien, a Bitner with 17 eyes and what suspiciously resembled a clipboard, a universal tool, apparently spoke up. But that's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be impossible. Doctor. Chen interrupted, her eyebrow raised so high it seemed ready to leave Earth's orbit. "My dear Blinks, let me introduce you to a little human concept we like to call, hold my beer, and watch this." She paused, realizing her audience might not be familiar with Earth's beverages or the questionable decision-making they often inspire. It's a phrase we use right before doing something incredibly ill-advised, yet often surprisingly successful. The Blinks' 17 eyes blinked in unison, a sight that would have been comical if it weren't so unsettling. "You see, Doctor," Chen continued, pacing across the stage like a predator eyeing its next meal, "humans are walking, talking paradoxes. We're fragile enough to be taken out by a determined peanut, yet sturdy enough to survive things that should, by all accounts, turn us into meat confetti." A holographic display flickered to life behind her, showing a series of human injuries and their subsequent healing processes. The audience watched in horror and fascination as bones knit themselves back together, skin regrew over gaping wounds, and organs repaired seemingly irreparable damage. "Take our skeleton, for instance, Doctor," Chen said, gesturing to an image of a human skeleton that looked like it had picked a fight with a trash compactor and somehow won. "You'd think this poor bastard would be dead, right? Nope. Slap on some casts, pump them full of painkillers, and in a few months, they'll be right as rain, probably trying to recreate whatever dumbass stunt got them into this mess in the first place." An EG diplomat in the third row fainted, its Galak-class body making a sound not unlike a waterbed being dropped from orbit. "Ignoring the commotion, Doctor," Chen forged ahead, "and don't even get me started on our immune system. It's like we've got tiny armies inside us constantly at war with anything that dares to invade. Sometimes these armies get a little too enthusiastic and start attacking our own bodies. But hey, nobody's perfect, right?" A nervous titter rippled through the audience. One brave soul, a Cynthian with metal skin that reflected the holographic displays in dazzling patterns, raised a hand. "Doctor. Chen, if humans are so resilient, why haven't you conquered the galaxy yet?" The room fell silent, all eyes and various sensory organs fixed on the human scientist. "Doctor." Chen's laughter echoed through the auditorium, a sound that was equal parts amused and slightly maniacal. "Conquer the galaxy, my dear Cynthian. We're too busy conquering our own stupidity to worry about galactic domination. Besides, have you seen the paperwork involved in interstellar conquest? No, thank you." She tapped her control pad, and the holographic display shifted to show a montage of human activities: extreme sports, experimental surgeries, space exploration, and what appeared to be a group of humans willingly jumping into freezing water for fun. "You see, ladies, gentlemen, and assorted sentient entities, humans don't need to conquer the galaxy. We're too busy conquering our own limitations, pushing boundaries that any sane species would look at and say, nah, I'm good. Doctor. Chen's eyes gleamed with a mix of pride and what could only be described as barely contained chaos. We're the species that looked at the concept of aging and said, nah, not today, Satan. We've got cells that can theoretically divide forever, and instead of using that power responsibly, we're out here trying to figure out how to make our pets live, as long as we do, because the thought of outliving our furry friends is just too damn depressing. A collective murmur of confusion rippled through the audience. The concept of keeping non-sentient creatures as companions was apparently not as universal as humans might have hoped. All right, Doctor, Chen said, realizing her faux pas. Quick side note. Humans form emotional attachments to non-sentient species and often prefer their company to that of other humans. We'll dive into that psychological nightmare another time. She cleared her throat and continued, now, where was I? Ah, yes, our cellular shenanigans. Let's talk about our liver, shall we? This bad boy, she said, pointing to an image of a human liver that popped up on the screen, can regenerate up to 25% of its mass in as little as a week, which is convenient, considering how much abuse we put it through. A holographic simulation showed a human liver regenerating while being bombarded with various substances, including something labeled Spring Break Special. Is that alcohol? A horrified Foxen asked, its color-changing skin currently a sickly shade of green. You bet your bioluminescent behind it is. Doctor, Chen replied cheerfully. Humans drink it for fun, for stress relief, and sometimes just to see what happens. Our liver sighs, rolls up its metaphorical sleeves, and gets to work like the overachieving organ it is. The Foxen's skin cycled through a series of colors before settling on a muted beige, which Dr. Chen assumed was the Foxen equivalent of I need a drink to process this information. But wait, there's more. Doctor, Chen exclaimed, sounding for all the world like an infomercial host trying to sell the galaxy's most bizarre product. Let's talk about human pregnancy. You think our regular biology is a trip? Strap in, folks, because this is where it gets really wild. The holographic display shifted to show the development of a human fetus. Several audience members leaned forward in fascination, while others seemed to be looking for the nearest exit. During pregnancy, the fetus is essentially a parasite, Doctor, Chen explained, her tone casual, as if discussing the weather rather than the miracle of human life. It hijacks the mother's body, rerouting blood flow, leaching calcium from bones, and generally treating the place like an all-you-can-eat buffet with no regard for the no substitution sign. A.M. Meepo in the back row raised an appendage that looked suspiciously like a question mark. But how does the mother's immune system not attack the fetus? Doctor, Chen's grin widened. Ah, now that's where it gets interesting. The placenta, this amazing organ that grows specifically for pregnancy, acts like a bouncer at the world's most exclusive nightclub. It lets in the good stuff, keeps out the bad, and somehow convinces the mother's immune system that this rapidly growing invader is totally cool and definitely invited to the party. She paused for dramatic effect, scanning the room. The audience was a mix of fascination, horror, and what appeared to be at least 3 species reconsidering their stance on interspecies relations. But here's the kicker, Doctor. Chen continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that was still somehow audible throughout the auditorium. Sometimes, fetal cells sneak past this placental bouncer and take up residence in the mother's body, and they can stay there for decades, potentially helping out with tissue repair or just chilling like the world's smallest, most patient sleeper agents. A collective gasp echoed through the room. A Voxen scientist fainted, its crystalline structure tinkling melodiously as it hit the floor. Oh, don't worry, Doctor, Chen said, waving a hand dismissively. It's usually harmless. Probably. We think. Look, we're still figuring this stuff out ourselves, okay? She turned back to the holographic display, which now showed a dizzying array of human biological processes from cellular division to neural networking, all happening simultaneously. The point is, ladies, gentlemen, and assorted beings, human biology is a beautiful mess. We're walking, talking paradoxes held together by spite, caffeine, and a cellular structure that seems to operate on the principle of you're not the boss of me. Doctor. Chen's eyes sparkled with a mixture of pride and what could only be described as barely contained madness. We can survive radiation levels that would turn other species into goo. We can adapt to extreme environments that would make most planets say, "Nah, I'm good." Hell, we've even got a bunch of humans living in a metal tube orbiting our planet just because we decided space looked fun, and we wanted a better view. The audience murmured in a mixture of awe and concern. Arasapan raised a tendril, its voice wavering as it asked, but what about the long-term effects of such resilience? Surely there must be drawbacks. Doctor. Chen's laughter echoed through the auditorium, a sound that was equal parts amused and slightly unhinged. Drawbacks? Oh, my sweet Saxapan, where do I even begin? Our very resilience is often our downfall. We're so good at adapting and surviving that we forget we're not actually invincible. She tapped her control pad, and the holographic display shifted to show a series of human activities that could only be described as tempting fate extreme sports, reckless stunts, and what appeared to be a group of humans willingly eating something labeled Carolina Reaper. You see, we've got this fascinating quirk in our psychology, Doctor. Chen explained, her tone that of someone discussing a particularly interesting fungus rather than her own species' apparent death wish. The more we survive, the more invincible we feel, and the more risks we take. It's a feedback loop of escalating stupidity that would be admirable if it weren't so terrifying. The holographic display flickered again, this time showing a human brain lighting up with various chemicals. And don't even get me started on our neurobiology. We're essentially walking chemistry experiments, with our brains constantly bathed in a cocktail of hormones and neurotransmitters that would qualify as a controlled substance on most planets. A Blinks in the front row raised an appendage. Are you saying that humans are intoxicated by their own biology, Doctor? Chen's grin widened to an almost alarming degree. Give that Blinks a cookie or whatever the equivalent is for your species. Yes, we basically get high on our own supply 24/7. Love, fear, excitement, anger, it's all just chemicals sloshing around in our skull-bound meat computers. She paused, noting the looks of confusion, or what she assumed was confusion, as alien facial expressions were still a bit of a guessing game on many faces in the audience. Oh, right. Cookie is a type of food reward, high means intoxicated, and meat computer is a you-know-what? Never mind. The point is, yes, our own biology is constantly altering our state of consciousness. The auditorium erupted into a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and what sounded suspiciously like prayers. Doctor. Chen waited for the noise to die down, idly wondering if she had just sparked an interstellar incident. Now, I know what you're all thinking, she continued once the commotion had subsided somewhat. If humans are so resilient and adaptable, why haven't they solved all their problems? Why aren't they the dominant species in the galaxy? She paused, her expression softening for the first time since she had taken the stage. The answer, my dear colleagues, is both simple and infinitely complex. We're really, really good at getting in our own way. The holographic display shifted once more, this time showing a montage of human history, great achievements juxtaposed with terrible failures, moments of breathtaking beauty alongside scenes of heartbreaking destruction. You see, the same adaptability that allows us to survive in hostile environments also means we can adapt to problems rather than solving them. The same creativity that leads to groundbreaking discoveries can also be used to invent new ways to harm each other, and the same emotional capacity that drives us to explore the stars also leads to conflicts that keep us tethered to our own planet. Doctor. Chen's voice took on a more serious tone, though the glint of humor never quite left her eyes. We're a species of contradictions, capable of incredible kindness and unimaginable cruelty, often in the same breath. We can split the atom and use it to power cities or level them. We can unravel the mysteries of our own genome and then argue about whether it's ethical to use that knowledge to cure diseases. She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed a diverse group of humans working together on what appeared to be a massive scientific project. But here's the thing, despite all our flaws, despite our tendency to trip over our own feet on the way to greatness, we keep pushing forward. We're curious to a fault, always asking what if? And why not? Even when the answer is clearly, because it's a terrible idea, you lunatic. The audience was wrapped a sea of alien faces and other sensory appendages fixed on the human scientist who had, in the space of an hour, managed to terrify, amuse and inspire them in equal measure. So to answer your question, my Cynthian friend Doctor, Chen said. Addressing the earlier query about galactic conquest, we haven't taken over the galaxy because we're too busy trying to figure ourselves out. We're still in the awkward teenage phase of our species development, all gangly limbs and uncontrolled growth spurts, trying to navigate the cosmos while also navigating our own complexity. She spread her arms wide, as if to encompass the entire auditorium in her embrace. And that, my esteemed colleagues, is why human biology is simultaneously the greatest miracle and the biggest practical joke in the known universe. We're a cosmic experiment in progress, a work of art painted in broad strokes of DNA and cellular Jenga, held together by the duct tape of evolution and the sheer audacity of existence. Doctor. Chen's grin returned, a beacon of mischief in a sea of bewildered alien faces. So, the next time you encounter a human and find yourself wondering how this squishy, fragile-looking creature managed to make it to the stars, remember we're the species that looked at the vast, uncaring void of space and said, "Bet you I can live there." We're the cosmic cockroaches. The universe's most persistent pain in the ass, and we're just getting started. She took a deep bow, her lab coat swishing dramatically. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'll be here all week. Try the veal, tip your waiters, and for the love of all that's holy, don't shake hands with us unless you're prepared for a biochemical adventure. Class dismissed. As Dr. Chen stepped away from the podium, the auditorium erupted into a mixture of applause, alarmed screeching, and what sounded suspiciously like several species simultaneously rethinking their non-intervention policies regarding Earth. In the back of the room, a pair of Zork's diplomats exchanged worried glances. Should we inform the council? One whispered, its antenna twitching nervously. And tell them what? The other hissed back. That humans are basically walking biohazards with a savior complex and a death wish? They'd never believe us. Meanwhile, at the podium, Dr. Chen was fielding questions from the audience with all the grace of a bull in a china shop if the bull had a PhD and a penchant for existential humor. A Flurbin scientist, its gelatinous body quivering with a mixture of fear and fascination, oozed forward. Doctor. Chen, it burbled, you mentioned that humans can survive radiation levels that would be lethal to most species. How is this possible without massive cellular damage? Doctor. Chen's eyes lit up with the fervor of a mad scientist who's just been asked about their favorite doomsday device. Ah, excellent question, my jiggly friend. You see, it's not that we don't suffer cellular damage, we absolutely do. We're not immune to radiation, we're just really stubborn about dying from it. She tapped her control pad, and the holographic display showed a microscopic view of human cells under radiation stress. Our cells have this nifty little trick called adaptive response. Essentially, if we're exposed to low doses of radiation over time, our cells throw up their metaphorical hands and say, fine, if this is how it's going to be. We might as well get better at dealing with it. The display zoomed in further, showing DNA repair mechanisms kicking into overdrive. We've got these amazing little cellular janitors that run around fixing DNA damage, and the more radiation we're exposed to, up to a point, of course. We're not actually invincible the better these janitors get at their job. The Flurbin's body rippled in what might have been a nod, or possibly indigestion. It was hard to tell with gelatinous life forms. But here's the kicker, Doctor. Chen continued, her grin taking on a slightly manic edge. We don't just tolerate radiation, oh no, that would be too simple. In some cases, we might actually benefit from it.